The Tokyo Summer Olympic and Paralympic Games are quickly approaching since their postponement last year, which has everyone buzzing about exactly what they are going to look like. Because of the ongoing pandemic, things certainly need to be switched up a bit, so today we are going to be diving into a few of the rules, some new and some old. From rules to protect everyone's health and safety, to rules about political demonstrations, to even rules about which countries won't be allowed to compete this year. Hang out with me, your host, Olivia Kozolowski, who you might know from over on Most Amazing Top 10, for a little while as we take a look at the top 10 things banned from the Tokyo Olympics. Let's get right into this list. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have physical contact. This one seems a little weird on the surface, but after the year and a half we've all just had, I guess it is one rule we probably could have foreseen. At this year's games, there will be a ban for both fans as well as athletes on all kinds of physical contact, from high fives to hugs to basically everything in between. This, of course, was a decision made with the health and safety of everyone involved in mind, and it's tough to say exactly what that is going to look like. I mean, there are some events that are allowed 10,000 spectators, so how will they possibly monitor the potential contact of 10,000 people? I'm obviously not an Olympic organizer, so I trust I'll have it all figured out, but this really is something I'm not sure if we've seen before. In our number 9 spot today, we have public transit. Okay, so of course there can't just be an outright ban on public transit, as people of course need access to transportation, but there is a ban on the athletes using it, and anyone involved in the games is being asked to avoid it as much as possible. They really are asking people who are attending the games to go straight to the event and straight home afterwards with no stops or anything like that in between. Again, like most of the other points on this list, these rules seem a little bizarre, but they are made to try and stop the games from turning into one big super spreader event and to try and keep everyone safe and sound. The athletes do have their own transportation set up for them, but some of the athletes have still expressed some concern over sharing the transportation with even just the other athletes. Hopefully by the time the games do begin, they'll have everything figured out and have everyone feeling nice and comfy about what's to come. In our number 8 spot today, we have alcohol. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far. It has been decided that this year's games are going to be alcohol-free after a lot of debate between all of the organizers. It of course would be a tough decision considering the amount of money alcohol sales bring in, not to mention the fact that one of this year's Olympic sponsors is a beer and spirits company, but even that company agrees with this decision. It is feared that the influence of alcohol would promote all the things we're trying to avoid, like loud talking, close contact, and intermingling with other groups. There have been quite a few restrictions on the sale and consumption of alcohol throughout the entire pandemic, so I guess this move isn't exactly a surprising one. In our number 7 spot today, we have cheering and yelling. The organizers of this year's games are hoping that they will be a silent one. Although anyone spectating the games will be required to wear a mask, they want to do their best to limit the spread even further by placing a ban on loud cheering and talking, as apparently it can spread germs more easily. It will definitely be weird to see a near silent sporting event, and similar to the physical contact, it will be interesting to see exactly how this rule is enforced, but I can absolutely respect the organizers for doing what they can to put the safety at the forefront, because it most certainly has not been an easy process for them. Hopefully this is the only year a silent games will be necessary and we can get right back to cheering for our favorite athletes in no time. In our number 6 spot today, we have autographs. It would totally suck to be super excited to meet your favorite athlete at the Olympic Games, only to realize that you won't be allowed to, but unfortunately that is what is going to happen this year. It absolutely makes sense to limit the close contacts of the athletes, especially with those outside of the athletes' village. I'm sure many of the athletes are upset they won't get to meet fans either, but I have no doubt that the time for that will come when it is safer to do so. Right now, the athletes all most definitely need to just be focusing on their health and safety to ensure they can compete, which many of them have been training their entire lives to do. And as fans, we can definitely give them the respect and the space to do that. In our number 5 spot today, we have Russia. After a doping scandal at the 2014 Sochi Olympics, Russia received a ban from international sports for 4 years. The decision wasn't made until December of 2019, and while it did end up getting reduced to 2 years instead of 4, That will still include this year's Tokyo Summer Olympics, as well as the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing and the 2022 FIFA World Cup. This is, of course, extremely unfortunate for the athletes who weren't a part of this and those who are working their way to being able to represent Russia, but the good news is that Russian athletes will still be able to compete just under a neutral title without representing a country. They're allowed to have Russia printed on their uniform as long as the words neutral athlete are also clearly visible. While I'm sure this would be upsetting to those who wanted to represent Russia, I'm very glad that these athletes will still be able to compete. In our number 4 spot today, we have foreign spectators. After a lot of tumultuous discussions surrounding the allowance of spectators, it has been decided that while those from Japan will be allowed to attend the games in person, foreign spectators have been officially banned. This absolutely makes sense, as many places and countries still have border restrictions in place in order to protect their residents. I do believe that this was a decision made not only to protect those participating in the games, but just with the health and safety of everyone in Tokyo in mind. We know that those allowed to attend the games will bring all the positive energy needed, and we can just all watch comfortably from the safety of our own homes, where cheering and yelling will definitely be permitted. In our number 3 spot today, we have athlete celebrations. Out of all the people involved in the games, the athletes most definitely have the most restrictions, and it totally makes sense why. I mean, without the athletes, there would be no games at all. So while everything I've mentioned on this list so far applies tenfold to the athletes, they do have a few extra rules, such as no celebrations. Athletes will be unable to do most things aside from competing, eating alone in the designated dining areas, and just doing their best to stay safe. The athletes are not permitted to enjoy the city or anything that it has to offer, and are encouraged to not mingle with the other athletes. It seems like this year is more about business and less about fun for everyone involved. In our number 2 spot today, we have tickets. Not all ticket holders will be attending the games this year, unfortunately, as far too many were sold for the new COVID capacity limits. These new limits means that events will only be spectated at 50% capacity, or a max of 10,000 people. To be fair, that is still a lot of spectators, but from the 4.48 million tickets that are currently held, only 2.72 million will actually be able to attend. There will now be a lottery-style picking taking place to see who the lucky spectators will actually be. It hasn't been made clear what this lottery situation is or how it works, but it is said that those who will be attending the games will know by July 6th, which leaves just 17 days until the opening ceremonies. So for all the ticket holders out there, I hope you're feeling lucky. In our number 1 spot today, we have protests and demonstrations. Okay, so this one is in our number 1 spot because it certainly is going to be the most controversial one on this list. There was a viral Facebook post saying that the Tokyo Summer Olympics had banned all BLM apparel and any demonstrations relating to BLM, but that's only half true. The rule doesn't come from Tokyo, but instead comes from the International Olympic Committee, and the rule isn't in reference to specifically BLM, but rather is a provision of the IOC's charter. The rule, which is called Rule 50, prohibits athletes from making any kind of political expression. While the rule is about these demonstrations in general, it definitely focuses on while the athletes are on medal podiums, in the field of play, and at the opening and closing ceremonies. The rule doesn't target one specific movement or ideology or anything like that. It truly is just a blanket statement. I know a lot of people will agree with this rule, but I also know a lot of people will be upset about it, so please let me know your thoughts and feelings on this one in the comments. Let's have some respectful discussions about what we believe that athletes should and shouldn't be allowed to do while at the Olympic Games. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thank you so much for checking it out. I've been your host today, Olivia Kozlowski. Make sure you thumbs up this video, subscribe to InformOverload, and make sure you subscribe to Most Amazing Top 10 too, so you can see more of me. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!